Hello, and welcome to Weather Watch, Millersville University's exclusive spot for weather entertainment. I'm your host, Katie Pritchard. In a past episode of Weather Watch, we discussed all the ins and outs of emergency management and how it relates to meteorology. Now we will delve back into the world of emergency management as Morgan Fletcher explains how we as meteorologists can better communicate impending disaster to the public.
In our last episode, we discussed the problems meteorologists face in communicating various weather events and climate events to the public. These same problems arise in the field of emergency management, which has a direct link to the meteorology field. An emergency or disaster can strike at any point in time without much warning and can pose great threats to public safety. These disasters can result from technological hazards or man-made hazards. However, the most prevalent emergencies are a direct result of natural hazards and weather-related phenomena, such as severe storms or floods. As methods for forecasting severe weather events become more advanced, the issue of adequately informing the public of inherent danger is becoming more problematic. We know the science behind the weather. Now it is up to us to devise methods to communicate that knowledge to the public in a manner that is easily understood and that will not cause mass hysteria. We sat down with Millersville's very own Dr. Hagelgans and Dr. Yalda to discuss their thoughts on communicating emergency situations to the public. We also sat down with senior meteorologist Matthew Parker, a member of the American Meteorological Society's Committee for Emergency Management, to discuss his experience and to also discuss tactics used by local emergency managers in his area.
One of the problems that we have these days is that the public is getting their information from a variety of sources. So even though the National Weather Service or their local meteorologists, whether it's through broadcast meteorology, are providing information, there are many other sources available to the public, and sometimes that information may not be as reliable as what an individual would get from the National Weather Service forecast or what they get through their TV stations. As a result, there may be some misunderstanding about the information itself, but also the predictions and what can be expected.
If we tell the public to leave and they leave and it's not as bad as we said it was going to be, people tend to get really upset, and then the next time I'm not going to respond. I left the last time and there was nothing. So we have to switch the mentality of the public to say, you know what, it wasn't a bad thing that you left, and it wasn't as severe as we said. It's forecasting, it's predicting. Obviously the storm can go however the storm goes. We can't control how much snow or how much water or whatever is going to happen. So we're trying to explain to the public that you need to react because XYZ event is going to happen. And people have gotten themselves to the point where, well, nothing's going to happen, or it won't happen, or it won't be that bad. And so they don't believe the science. We need to do a better job of educating people that it's okay if it's not as bad as we thought, and it's okay that you left, and now we'll just let you come back in earlier. So we need to get past that complacency. We need to form better habits. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But the biggest problem we still have is proper terminology. If the public doesn't understand the message, they're not going to appropriately respond.
The National Weather Service, as you know, it's working very hard to engage the community, so they're not just producing information that can be used by forecasters, but also there's information that can be used by emergency managers, by decision makers, by community leaders, and then that information can also be used by the citizens. So in general, I think if the public understands the source of information, if they can access that information, they would have an easier time understanding the decisions that are made by the public officials.
I think one of the biggest things we are always faced with is preparedness. Making sure that people in the public understand what it means when there's a warning or a watch. It's always a sticking point for our profession in meteorology. And also, you want the public to respond accordingly. If there is a threat, they understand what to do and take shelter or protect themselves and their family or their homes or dwellings. Transportation is still probably the biggest threat that you and I face in our daily lives and our commutes and where we live. And it's a very problematic scenario because there's a lot of hazardous materials out there that are being transported so that our society functions well. But just the same, we have to be prepared and ready. And the weather plays a big part of that.
The national initiatives are great, but I think there needs to be a connection between the national initiatives and then getting to regions and then statewide and then down to the local community level. We need to do a better job of connecting what we do at the national level to what we do at the local level. So individuals also see that connection and they can make better decisions at the individual level that are also in line with what we expect to be done at the national level.
As you can see, there are still many problems we face today in communicating emergency situations. These include using scientific dialect that is too difficult for the public to understand, failing to educate the public in what to do during an emergency starting at a young age, and ensuring the public is using credible sources for information related to emergency situations. We as meteorologists need to work hand in hand with emergency managers to break the communication barrier. Once we educate and inform the public in how to handle emergency situations, it is their job to take that knowledge and act accordingly to ensure their own personal safety. For Weather Watch, I'm student meteorologist Morgan Fletcher.
Thanks, Morgan. Well, that's it for this episode of Weather Watch. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the addresses shown below. You can also watch all our previous episodes at muweatherwatch.com. On behalf of the entire cast and crew, I'm your host, Katie Pritchard. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.